Hi, and welcome to another capital raising toolkit session. Today we're going to talk about streamlining your legals. The first few rounds, right up to Series A, and sometimes even including Series A, the legal agreements are really highly templated. The subscription agreement, the SAFE, and the note, there's templates out there. It's really important that you don't overcomplicate things. We do recommend using a lawyer. A startup lawyer will really understand this. In the capital raising toolkit, we have some more information, so let's check it out. So here we have the capital raising toolkit. I'm just going to jump straight into the legal document section. There's a lot of other information in here for you to check out. In this section here, you can see there's only a few legal documents that you need, and most industries in most countries have worked out a standard set of documents. You don't want to change them too much. So what are they? Term sheet is not really an agreement. It's a summary of the key terms that investors will invest under. So it's something that the startup and the investor signs to says, this is how this deal is going to go together. A lot of those key terms go into the shareholders agreement and the subscription agreement. So the subscription agreement, this is the document that the investors sign to join your round. Cake has this built into its system. So if you need a template, we have one. There are others out there. They're not that difficult to find. Definitely check those out when you're running your round. Similarly with a SAFE, the SAFE is not an equity round. A SAFE and a convertible note are very similar. They're essentially, the investor gives the company money and expects that it will convert to equity at a later date. Cake has both a SAFE and a convertible note built in. Another agreement you'll regularly see when you're running rounds is a shareholders agreement. If you don't already have one, you will normally have to implement one if you're running an equity round. If you're doing a SAFE or a note, you wouldn't normally have to do a shareholders agreement because, SAFEs and notes, the investors coming in aren't actually shareholders, so you don't need a shareholders agreement until you have multiple investors. You don't have to have a shareholders agreement either. You can run on a constitution. It's just that normally shareholders agreements are required to make sure that the relationships work well between all the investors on the cap table. A vesting agreement is a separate agreement to a shareholders agreement, and it can be really useful for making sure that founders early on have a really good way of understanding how the founder equity is going to work. What happens if one founder leaves and the other founder's there still? There needs to be a way to work out what's going to happen with all that equity. A deed of accession is the document that investors sign when they're coming onto the cap table. That means they accept the shareholders agreement and are happy to abide by its terms. Again, you don't need one when you're running a convertible note or a SAFE. And sometimes the wording of the deed of accession is built into the subscription agreement as well, as it is handled that way in the Cake app. Last but not least, the ESOP plan rules. While not specifically about your raise, it's another important legal document for startups. So there you have it, a really brief overview of the legal agreements that you need when you're running around. Again, we really do recommend using templates and then doing that in conjunction with some really good startup lawyers so that you get the best of both worlds. Happy raising.